I was visiting a friend's studio last week when she showed me her latest purchase, a vintage-style desk fan. It had those heavy brass blades and a sea foam green finish that looked like it was pulled straight out of a 1950s detective novel. She was obsessed with it. She kept running her fingers over the grill, talking about the human touch and how you could just feel the soul and warmth the designer had poured into the curves. To her, it wasn't just a fan. It was a physical connection to a simpler, more emotional past. Then, I happened to glance at the product card on the table. It mentioned the fan was the flagship of a new neural design line, drafted entirely by a generative AI. When I pointed this out, the shift in the room was almost physical. She pulled her hand back as if the metal had suddenly turned freezing cold. AI? She asked, her excitement vanishing instantly. Well, now that you mention it, the symmetry is a bit sterile. It feels hollow now, doesn't it? Like a mathematical imitation of a memory. It was a total 100er. Moments ago, the object had a spirit. Now it's just a calculated output. Yet, interestingly, 5 minutes later, she was raving about her new smart tracking fitness watch, specifically bragging about how the AI-optimized interface was perfectly efficient and technologically superior to anything a human could sketch. She didn't want a soul in her watch. She wanted cold, hard competence. That instantaneous switch-loving the AI for its efficiency, but loathing it for its lack of heart in a vintage frame, reveals a hidden psychological map we all carry. We've built rigid mental boxes for what we call warmth and competence, and we get deeply uncomfortable when those lines are crossed. It's called the matching effect, and it governs almost everything you choose to buy. Why do we demand a human hand for our nostalgia, yet feel more comfortable with a machine designing our future? It turns out your brain is playing a very specific game of connect the dots every time you look at a product.
Yeah. That story is it's the perfect way to frame this whole deep dive. It captures that visceral, almost involuntary reaction we have.
Right. It wasn't a logical choice.
Not at all. It's not that your friend just changed her mind intellectually. Her body literally rejected the object the second the story behind it changed. And we are seeing this pattern just everywhere in the data right now.
So that's what we're going to unpack today. These invisible mental rules, this matching effect you mentioned, that decide whether we, trust an AI product or just reject it out of hand.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to boil down to these two really powerful opposing forces, warmth versus competence.
It's almost like we have two different operating systems in our brains for judging the things we buy. And the stakes for companies are just huge. Yeah. We have a massive stack of research today, academic studies, consumer psychology reports, real-world data on what some are calling the AI backlash.
Yeah.
So the mission here is to really understand why putting AI-powered on a label is becoming like marketing poison for some products, while it's the absolute holy grail for others.
It's definitely not random. It is highly specific, and it's all about how our brains categorize the soul of the creator against the purpose of the product.
Okay, so let's get right into the mechanics of this. You mentioned that my friend's reaction, that feeling of almost betrayal when she found out the fan was AI designed, is a textbook example. I have another story from our sources that I think drives this home even harder.
You're thinking of the Kyoto case study.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So imagine a century-old wagashi shop in Kyoto. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, wagashi are these incredibly delicate, traditional Japanese confections.
They're more like art than food.
They are. They represent the seasons, history, a very specific aesthetic. Anyway, the story goes that the owner's daughter, who was trying to, honor their heritage while staying modern, she used this high-end generative AI to design the packaging for their new autumn moon gift set.
And on the surface, that sounds like a brilliant move. You have tradition meeting cutting-edge technology.
You would think so. The AI analyzed, 1,000 years of traditional patterns, historical paintings, kimono fabrics. It produced something that was objectively, perfect.
Mathematically perfect.
Exactly. The symmetry, the color balance, flawless. It was visually stunning. But when the longtime patrons saw it, and these are people who've been buying sweets there for decades, they didn't react with awe. They felt this strange sense of detachment.
And they used some very specific words to describe it.
They did. They called it hollow or too sharp.
Too sharp. That is such a telling critique, isn't it? It's not a flaw, but it's wrong.
It's so wrong, because in their minds, a product that's rooted in nostalgia, it requires the warmth of a human hand. Someone who understands the bitterness of tea or the melancholy of an autumn wind. It's a classic case of the matching effect going wrong.
Absolutely. We subconsciously categorize AI as a tool of cold competence, not a vessel for soulful memory.
So when it tries to sell us our own past, it just feels like a betrayal, like only a human heart can truly remember.
That exact reaction finding perfection to be hollow, that's really the crux of the issue. And to understand why those patrons in Kyoto felt that, we have to look at something called the stereotype content model. It's a foundational theory in social psychology.
Okay, let's unpack this. It sounds like something you'd use for judging people, not software.
Well, that's the thing. The research shows we use the same basic cognitive framework to judge everything. A person, a brand, a company, or an AI. We judge primarily on two dimensions, warmth and competence.
Okay, break those down for us. What's warmth?
Warmth is all about intentions. Your ancient lizard brain is asking, is this entity friendly? Does it have emotions? Is it benevolent? Basically, is it on my side?
And competence?
Competence is about ability. Is it skilled? Is it efficient? Can it actually get the job done?
So if we map humans onto this grid, where do we usually fall?
The general stereotype for a human creator is high warmth, but variable competence.
Variable. I like that.
Yeah. We assume a human has a soul, they have distinct emotions, they understand the nuance of the autumn moon, but, humans are flawed. We make mistakes, we get tired, we have bad days. We aren't mathematically perfect.
And AI is the complete inverse of that.
Precisely. The stereotype for AI is high competence, low warmth. We see it as a super calculator. Efficient, logical, precise, tireless. But it's cold. It lacks consciousness. It doesn't feel anything. It doesn't know what autumn feels like. It only knows the data points associated with the word autumn.
Which brings us to the Kyoto packaging. This is a schema congruity problem.
Exactly. Schema congruity is the academic term for fitting a square peg in a square hole. Our brains have these pre-existing blueprints or schemas for how the world is supposed to work.
Right.
When you think of a nostalgic treat or a vintage fan, the schema for that product is just heavily weighted towards warmth. It's about memory, emotion, the past. So your brain expects the creator to match that schema. It expects a warm creator, a human.
But when you find out it was made by AI?
The schema is violated. You have a warm product created by a cold entity. The brain signals an error. It creates a feeling of wrongness, of dissonance. That is why your friend physically pulled her hand away from the fan. It wasn't an intellectual decision. It was a deep cognitive rejection.
That physical reaction is what gets me. It's like her brain was actually having trouble computing what the object was.
That's actually the literal mechanism at play. It's a concept called processing fluency.
I love this. This is about how easy it is for our brains to just chew on information, right?
It's a great way to put it. Think of it like reading a font. If the font is clean and easy to read, you trust the text more. If the font is messy and hard to decipher, you get skeptical. That's processing fluency.
So high fluency is easy, feels good.
It feels good, and it feels right. It feels familiar. Low fluency feels difficult, jarring, or just wrong.
Okay, so let's apply the math here. Human plus nostalgia.
High fluency, easy to process, feels right.
AI plus innovation, like the fitness watch.
Also high fluency. AI plus high tech equals efficient. That clicks perfectly.
But AI plus nostalgia, the fan, the wagashi bach.
Low fluency. It's cognitive friction. Your brain has to work harder to reconcile the cold source with the warm object. And that cognitive effort, it actually manifests as a negative emotion, that feeling of sterility or hollowness.
So it's not even that the AI did a bad job. The design of the fan might have been objectively better. It's that the story of its creation was difficult for our brains to process emotionally.
Precisely. The fluency dictates the trust. If it feels hard to process, we just don't trust it. And that trust is the currency of purchase intention. If fluency is low, the wallet stays shut.
This makes so much sense. It explains the hypocrisy, loving the watch but hating the fan. We're not judging the object in a vacuum, we're judging the fit between the creator and the object.
Right.
But this matching effect clearly has to work both ways. If the coldness of AI breaks the spell of nostalgia, then surely that same coldness is a superpower in other contexts.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting for anyone trying to, sell a product or understand the future of tech. There are zones where cold competence is exactly what we crave.
Which brings me to another story that's the perfect counterpoint to that Kyoto shop. This one is much sharper, much more modern.
Let's hear it.
So I read about this tech entrepreneur in Berlin. He was launching a radical new smart prosthetic limb. Now, traditionally, prosthetics often try to mimic the human form, right? Skin tone coverings try and look natural. This entrepreneur went in the complete opposite direction. He leaned entirely into an AI system that had a cold expert persona.
Meaning they didn't try to hide the machine at all.
Not one bit.
Yeah.
No friendly avatars, no attempt at warmth. The design process was just raw data, topology optimization, structural analysis. The resulting aesthetic was alien, almost insect-like, purely functional.
Skeletal, metallic.
Exactly. And the reaction...
I'm guessing it wasn't hollow.
Not at all. The early adopters, mostly independent athletes, sprinters, climbers, they absolutely loved it. They didn't want a friendly limb. They wanted an efficient one.
Of course.
Because the product was framed as breakthrough innovation, the AI's competence was a perfect match for their goals. They saw the machine's coldness not as a flaw, but as a guarantee of precision.
See, that is the matching effect, working perfectly for the AI. In this case, the lack of a human touch wasn't a bug, it was a feature.
Because if I'm buying a high-performance prosthetic or maybe a stock trading bot, I don't want it to have feelings. I want it to be a cold, hard calculator.
Exactly. This distinction is often categorized in consumer psychology as the difference between search products and experience products.
Okay, let's break those down. What's a search product?
A search product is something where you can objectively measure its quality before you buy it. Think electronics, cameras, hard drives, or that prosthetic limb. You can look at the specs.
It's data-driven.
Right. And because it's data-driven, it aligns perfectly with the competence stereotype of AI. We assume AI is better at processing data than a human. So for search products, we see AI designed and our brain goes, high fluency, this will be efficient, optimized. We appreciate the AI there.
But the Kyoto suites, those are experience products.
Correct. Experience products are subjective. You can't really judge the quality until you, well, experience them. Food, perfume, fashion, art, nostalgic items, they rely on sensory evaluation and emotional resonance.
And that's where AI fails the vibe check.
It fails hard. There's research from Vanderbilt that specifically looked at this. They found that high automation actually reduces nostalgic feelings.
Reduces them.
Yes, because nostalgia is fundamentally about remembering. It's a human mental act. And since consumers perceive that AI cannot remember or feel, its attempt to create a nostalgic product feels fake. It feels manipulative.
That's the word, manipulative. When a machine tries to fake warmth, it triggers that uncanny valley feeling. It's like a telemarketer pretending to be your best friend. You know it's a script.
And this is having real-world consequences for marketing right now. We were looking at that analysis of Reddit threads and a study that found something startling. Putting the words AI-powered on a product, especially a high-risk or emotional one, can actually lower emotional trust.
Wait, really? Because if you look at commercials, everyone is slapping AI on everything. Toasters, toothbrushes, mattresses.
And they're likely shooting themselves in the foot. The research shows that for many consumers, AI is no longer a buzzword for better. It is becoming a warning label. It signals risk. It signals a lack of accountability.
Right. If I buy an expensive camera for a wedding and you tell me it's AI powered, I might start to worry, is this going to hallucinate? Is it going to break? Who is even responsible if it fails?
That connects directly to those Reddit threads. People saying, I don't want an AI support agent. I want a human. It's that demand for accountability. There's another layer to this too, and it's about uncertainty. We've talked search versus experience, but there's also demand certainty.
What does that mean?
Okay, imagine you're shopping. Sometimes you have high demand certainty. I need a USB-C cable, 6 feet long, braided. You know exactly what you want.
Okay.
In that case, you prefer AI. You want a search engine, you want efficiency, give me the product fast.
But low demand certainty.
That's when you say, I need an outfit for a wedding, but I don't know the dress code and I'm insecure about my arms. You don't know what you need.
Oh, in that case, I definitely do not want a cold search bar. I want a human to say, I get it. Let's look at this together.
Exactly. You need empathy. You need warmth to reduce your anxiety. AI, because it's stereotyped as low warmth, cannot provide that psychological safety. So even if the AI could theoretically pick the perfect dress, we reject it because we crave human reassurance in that moment of uncertainty.
That is a really crucial distinction. It's not just about what the product is, but how confident we feel about buying it. If we're anxious, we want a human hand to hold. If we're confident, we want a machine to execute. So we have this huge divide: rejection for nostalgia and experience, acceptance for innovation and specs. But the world isn't black and white. Most things are a mix. Is there a middle ground? Can you, I don't know, trick the brain? Or maybe guide the brain to accept AI in those warmer, more emotional spaces?
We can. And it turns out the secret sauce is, well, it's us. It's humans. Collaboration.
I have a story about this that fits perfectly. It's about a design studio that managed to bridge this exact gap.
Okay, let's hear it.
So Picture a cutting-edge design studio in New York. They were creating a new line of sustainable home furniture. Now, they wanted to use AI to optimize material usage, cut down waste, a very technical goal.
Sure.
But furniture is emotional. It's where we live. At first, consumers rejected the AI concepts as sterile. They looked too perfect, too generated. So the lead designer pivoted. She repositioned herself as the emotional gatekeeper.
Emotional gatekeeper. I love that title.
Me too. She started posting content showing how she was tweaking the AI suggestions. She would take the AI's output and manually add human imperfections, softening an edge here, adding a bit of texture there. She framed the AI as a partner, not a master.
And did it work?
It worked brilliantly. The consumer stopped seeing cold automation and started seeing a sophisticated tool that was guided by empathy. The matching effect shifted. They accepted the high-tech sustainability because it was validated by a human hand.
That is the key. By positioning the human as the gatekeeper, she validated the warmth schema. She reassured the brain, don't worry, a human soul checked this before it left the factory.
It creates a psychological safety net for the consumer.
Exactly. This touches on the research about AI-dominant versus AI-assisted collaboration. When the human is in the driver's seat, AI-assisted, it's much safer for emotional products. We see the human as the creator and the AI as just a fancy paintbrush.
But what happens when the AI is dominant, when it's doing the heavy lifting?
That is riskier. But there's a fascinating psychological quirk called the halo effect. Research suggests that if we expect a positive outcome, say a car that drives itself perfectly and the AI is the dominant partner, we actually give the AI more credit for the success. We admire the machine's prowess. Wow, the computer did that all by itself.
But if it crashes,
or if we fear a negative outcome, like a bad medical diagnosis, the tables turn. We blame an AI-dominant system much more harshly than a human one. We forgive humans for making mistakes because we have empathy for them. We do not forgive calculators for making mistakes.
Right. To err is human, to glitch is unforgivable.
Basically. And this is where transparency becomes vital. The whole black box problem is a huge trust killer. If a human makes a mistake, we can ask why. If an AI makes a mistake and we don't know why, if the algorithm is totally opaque, our trust just evaporates.
I see.
Research shows that for high-risk products, explaining how making the algorithm transparent can actually help bridge that warmth competence gap. It turns the magic black box into an understandable tool.
So if you're going to use AI for something important or emotional, you better explain your work. Or, like the designer in New York, show the human hands on the steering wheel.
Yes. Now, there's one more twist in the data that I found. Just completely counterintuitive. It's about anthropomorphism.
Oh, right. Giving the AI a face.
Putting a smile on the robot or giving the chatbot a name like Little Zang or Alexa. Standard marketing 101, right?
Yeah.
Make it friendly.
You would think so. But the matching effect throws a huge wrench in that logic.
Also.
Okay, so we established AI is high competence, low warmth. Humans are high warmth, variable competence.
Right.
So if you're selling a warm product, like that nostalgic fan or maybe a therapy chatbot, giving the AI a human name or a face helps. It borrows warmth from the human stereotype to match the product type. It reduces that aversion.
Makes sense. Little Zang feels friendlier than Unit 734.
And this is the crazy part. If you are selling a competence product like that high-tech prosthetic or a financial algorithm, giving the AI a human face actually hurts the product's appeal.
Wait, really? Why?
Because you are diluting the competence signal. If I want a super calculator and you put a human face on it, my brain subconsciously thinks humans make mistakes. Humans are emotional. I don't want emotions in my math. It creates a new kind of incongruity. We want our calculators to look like machines, not people.
That is fascinating. So by trying to make the high-tech tool look friendly, you're actually making it look dumber or less precise in the eyes of the consumer.
Exactly. It enters the uncanny valley, not just visually, but functionally. There's even research on hiring algorithms. If an AI that recommends job candidates looks too human, managers trust its recommendations less. They feel like it's overstepping into human social territory.
So they want an objective data cruncher, not a digital person judging other people.
That is such a crucial lesson for designers. Don't just slap a smile on everything. Ask yourself, does this product need to feel warm or does it need to feel capable?
You have to match the avatar to the expectation.
So let's try and unpack the big takeaways here. We've covered a lot of ground. It seems like the core lesson is we're not just buying objects, we're buying the story of their creation.
That is the headline. We are constantly matching the soul of the creator to the soul of the product. If it's a product about emotion, memory, or experience, we demand a human creator for that warmth. If you use AI there, you have to hide it or heavily moderate it with a human gatekeeper.
And if it's a product about function, specs, or efficiency,
then you match the brain of the creator, the AI's competence, to the function of the product. And in that zone, we embrace the coldness. We want the machine to look and feel like a machine.
And marketers are failing when they cross these wires, trying to sell AI nostalgia, which feels hollow, or trying to sell human perfection, which feels inefficient.
Exactly. The most successful products of the future will be the ones that respect these deep psychological boundaries. They'll use AI to supercharge competence, but they'll keep the human hand visible whenever warmth is required.
It really changes how I look at that fan my friend bought. It wasn't just, a bad design choice. It was a psychological mismatch.
It was a category error in the human brain.
Here is where it gets really interesting to think about the future, though. We're talking about these rigid boxes of warmth and competence. But AI is getting so much better at faking it.
It is.
As AI becomes capable of perfect mimicry writing warm poetry that makes you cry, or designing imperfect pottery that looks hand-thrown, we are approaching a point where the output is indistinguishable from human work. If the product provides the warmth we crave, but the source is cold code, will our brains eventually rewrite these psychological rules? Or will human-made become the ultimate luxury label? Not because the quality is better, but simply because we are willing to pay a premium for the inefficiency and maybe even the suffering inherent in the human creative process. We might be entering an era where we value the effort of creation more than the creation itself.
That is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Are we buying the art, or are we buying the story of the artist?
I have a feeling we're going to find out sooner than we think.
Always a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, check your labels. You might be surprised what your brain is telling you before you even open the box. Catch you next time.